In this video, we'll take a look at displaying form notifications. So, for example, displaying an info form notification on a form. Now, this is driven by JavaScript, but it's JavaScript that is configurable through front-end records. Okay, let's take a look. Hello and welcome to this video. And this video is the third video in a series of videos I'm doing on JavaScript and model-driven apps. But it's JavaScript that can be configured through front-end tables. And this video is going to look at form notifications. So displaying little info, warning, or error notifications on your form in the event of something happening. So if we look at this inspection form and on this quality review section, if I flick that to yes to get access to the quality review field, I'm going to put a value into it as a currency field. So I'll just put in £1,000. And as soon as I focus off that field, then I get an info form notification saying that fee is too much, and that's fine. And if I can take that out, then the message will disappear. And that's because I've set up a form notification to display that info message if quality review contains data. Simple as that. And obviously because it doesn't contain data, then I'm getting an error message because it's a required field, but that's okay. So how is that set up? Well, it's set up with a combination of two things, and if you've watched the previous two videos in this series, you know what they'll be. One hand you've got a configuration table, the other hand you've got JavaScript code. So let's take a look at the configuration table. If I go into the settings area and I go to my form notifications records, you'll see then this record in question is making that info form notification display. And the record itself is pretty straightforward. So the table value is the table that you're going to run this form notification against, or the form that the notification is going to be on. So for example, that was the inspection form for the inspection table. So we have the logical name of the inspection table going in there. Again, as I've said in the previous two videos, this is using logical names at the minute. I'm looking at upgrading these to use display names, but for now it's logical names. The source then is the column that you want to run your notification on, and then your operators. So I've added in a few operators here, sort of the main ones: equals, contains data, does not contain, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Okay, so for this, at the minute, it contains data, and that's why we're getting the info message. So any currency value in there will pop the info message. And then the value is locked because it contains data, but if I have to change that to greater than or equal to, for example, then that will become unlocked and mandatory. So let's change that to 100. And then you can pick what type of notification type you want, whether it's info, warning, or error. And if you select error, then you can also prevent it from saving. And then you can also put in your notification message as well. So we've changed that to greater than 100. So let's see if that we'll go back into the application on this tab, into the form, and we'll change this to 1001. And there we go, that fee is too much. If I change that to 99, then the notification is removed because the condition isn't met. So what about a warning? Well, let's just change that to a warning and we'll see the warning displayed. Just leave the rest of it as is, save, and I'll reload that form into quality review, and again change that to, and there we go, then we get the warning message. And again, I could change that to 50, say, and because that's less than 100, the warning message clears. And then finally, let's look at error. And we'll leave saving off for now. And we'll go back to the form and we'll reload the form. And we will change this to 500, which is greater than 100. So I get the error message, but we can still save that. Even though it's an error message, it's still just an information error message. But if we go back into this, and what I'm going to do is I am going to go back into my form notification, and I'm going to set that to yes, prevent saving. Click save, back in here, and if I refresh the form now, so I've still got that form notification. Let's just change it though to 750, say, and of course I still get the notification. And if I click save, then now I'm going to get an error. Cannot save the form due to validation errors. Please address all error notifications before saving. So with that option set, you can then prevent saving as well if you wish to prevent saving for an error message. So that's it. That's really how it works. So let's add in a couple more records just to show you how this works as a demonstration. So the table is going to be the inspection table. The source then is going to be, let's use this. So I'm going to pull up logical names from Level Up Quickly. I'll grab that and I'll pop that into there, and we'll say it does not contain data. We'll say it's an info message, and we will say, yeah, don't forget to add a date. And click save. Oh, I'm giving it a name. There. Let's save back into inspection and refresh the screen. And the fee is too much, and if I take the date out, then now I have two notifications, and if I click down on that, you'll see we get the fee error and the date info. So that's a quick demonstration as to how this works. Again, like the dynamic choice options that we looked at in the previous video, I think this is pretty useful. And let's take a look now at the code, the JavaScript code that makes this run. So there are two pieces of JavaScript code that we need to look at. The first is the interesting one. It's the one that runs on the end user form. So for example, running here on the inspection form, that's actually displaying or clearing the form notifications. The other piece then is just a small piece that runs on the actual form notification record itself. But let's take a look at the one that's running on the end user form. So if I go into XRM Toolbox and I'm in the Web Resources Manager tool, this apply form notifications is the web resource that is making this work. So we pass in the execution context, we get the form context, and from the form context we get the table name. We then register an add-on save event handler, and what that's doing is if the notification type is error and the prevent saving is selected, then essentially we basically run prevent default. In other words, we prevent the save and we display a dialog that basically says you can't save. Okay, so that's that setup. Then we use the XRM Web API retrieve multiple records. If you've seen the other videos in this series, you will have seen this many times, using this Web API call to bring back multiple records. And this time we're bringing it back from the form notification table and bringing back all the records that's equal to the table or the form that we're on at the minute. And then we go into the evaluate all rules function. And evaluate all rules leads to the calling of the evaluate rule for each of the records that's been returned. And the evaluate rule is then where the rules are evaluated, where you're matching what's on the field on the form versus what's the value that's coming back in the record, in the particular record that you're evaluating, based on whatever the operator may be. And then based on that, the decision is made as to whether should show a notification or not. And if you should show the notification, then you call form context.ui.set form notification, pass in the correct information, and then that will show the notification. Else you clear the notification. After that, then, as well as that, then there is the register the on change events. So that's for anything that's coming back from the records, any fields or columns that we're looking to check. We set up the on change events for them, and then eventually in there we will call evaluate rules for field, and evaluate rules for field, then we'll just call that same evaluate rule function that will again run through and check the field has changed. Now, do I still need to show the notification, or do indeed I now need to show the notification? And that's really it for that piece of JavaScript. The JavaScript then that runs on the form notification form itself is very basic validation. If you've seen either of the other two videos, I'm doing table validation and I am doing column validation. So that's also happening on this form, and the rest of it is just sort of mandatory field and lock-in fields based on certain values. So form notification validation. So again, this is how I'm validating the table name using xrm.utility.get entity metadata and then passing in the table name. And if I get metadata back, then it's a valid table. If I don't, then it isn't a valid table. And then that's how I am validating the column name. Again, same call, xrm.utility.get entity metadata, passing in the table name, but this also passing in the column name as a parameter as well. And again, if I get metadata back, it's a valid column name. If I don't, it's an invalid column name. And the rest of this really is just mandatory fields, unlocking or unlocking fields based on values in other fields. And again, if you've seen the other two videos, the first two videos in this series, then you will already have seen this get entity metadata calls. So that's it for the code. Again, I'm not going through the code line by line. If there's anything you'd like me to, or you think I should look at in more detail, please let me know. So that's the code, and really that's it for this video. This a lot simpler than certainly than the dynamic choices in the previous video, but as I said, I think this is pretty powerful. Definitely there are upgrades to this that I could do, as I've spoken about in the other videos. I would like to use display names here rather than logical names, and this is very simple logic. It's if this is equal to this, do this. There's no sense of being able to add up any sort of complex queries using ands or ors. I would like to upgrade that functionality, but I don't know if that's something that's really achievable. But I still think this has quite a lot of usefulness to be able to pop info, warning, or error messages. And then if you pop an error message, being able to prevent saving, but having it all configured from the front end. But listen, let me know your thoughts. Please send me any feedback you might have. And thanks for watching the video. And I hope you will join me in the next video when we'll look at hiding or showing forms from the form selector. Thanks very much. Cheers. Good luck.